Hi there, it's Chris from WeLet. This week I'm going to go through ongoing tenancies. So last week we looked at tenancies and setting them up. This week we're going to go through how you have a successful tenancy, whether that's single let or a HMO or a house of multiple occupancy. So just running through, I think one of the key things to remember is that when you're sort of renting out property or rooms in the property, it's actually more like being part of the service sector. So you need to take it and appreciate essentially your customer, which is the tenant. And this is a mindset that probably is perhaps not familiar with some landlords of old, and it's something that's changing. I think more switched on landlords, modern landlords nowadays recognise that they're in a service sector essentially, and it's a positive for tenants and for everyone that essentially we're moving forward, and that it's a race to the top or heading that way, as opposed to the tired landlords that are looking just to take as much money as they can off their tenants are finding it harder and harder to make a living, and that's a good thing. So how do you become that good landlord? How do you have a good relationship with your tenants, whether they're professionals, students, families, etc.? Well, first off, get into the business because you have got the right mindset and everything will come right. So what can you do? Well, we've already talked last week about setup. So you do need to get this right first off. I use Open Rent for references, and get guarantors as well. I use the National Residential Landlords Association, so I'll use their template letters so I know they're going to be right. I also use their tenancy agreement as well, because I know if I use that, that's definitely going to be a bang up to date. And I follow a checklist to make sure that I've done everything that I should, so the tenancy is set up perfectly before you start. Now, once you've done all that, you should have the right tenants in place, so your issues should be a lot less. What I like to do though is, once you have the tenants there moving in, I like to start on a positive note, which means having a good orientation, welcoming your tenants into your house, making sure they know where everything is, how to contact you, where local facilities might be, etc. So you've got all that lined up for them. What I also do is provide a pack for my tenants with that sort of information in it. So it's really easy to get to the detail that they might need. What else? Well, obviously, I think if you're providing a good product in the first place, and that you keep it maintained, then you'll have happy tenants. I tend to say that perhaps during the course of a tenancy in the year, you should look to have inspections. Probably 2 to 3 times per year, and if you do those right, it's not about finding fault as much as tenants. So finding issues that perhaps they hadn't mentioned or they were just living with, because they don't always tell you, and then you can rectify them, and that way they're happy and you're happy. It also gives you the opportunity to pick up any health and safety issues perhaps, or any security concerns that you could help with to make the home safer. In terms of payments, etc., yeah, of course you've got to chase up payments if they're not made. It's always best to set up with the tenant that they set up a standing order, so it's the same time every month. And obviously if you can do that, that's certainly going to be the way forward. Obviously on occasion it can happen that a tenant doesn't pay on time, and from that perspective I would be quite reasonable. I would obviously talk to them and try and understand why. wait to see what they come back with in terms of their reasons. It might just be as simple as a bank issue, the payment hasn't gone through for their job, etc. So in the first instance, when you have no sort of trend, then I would certainly look to work with them and find out if they're going to pay the next day, or if they can't pay, then you can go through and say, well, you know, can you let us know when you expect to pay, if it's going to be the day after. But then I would obviously look at maybe 2 chances in that respect, and then I'd be looking with the NRLA, the template letter, to formally make note that they haven't paid their rent and that they are in breach of their tenancy agreement. And most of the time, and it's very rare, and I've only had one situation myself, and then the payment was only delayed by about a week or so, and they made a part payment and then they finished the payment only a week later. And I was, you know, I was reasonable with them, but obviously it took a reminder letter framed with more legalese to get the payment made, and it was. So you know, don't let it ride. I know sometimes people don't like confrontation. It's not about confrontation, it's being reasonable, and it's just presenting the facts. So don't get caught up in it emotionally. That's all I would say. And in terms of sort of ending tenancies, do it really positively and the best way you can. Sort of picking up a few pence here and there on your deposit is not something I would recommend. More and more out there, and it's just going to become a bigger thing, especially in the sort of student market and letting to students, will be those sort of sites that grade you, and you know, a few bad comments in the sort of Airbnb sort of style is not going to help you fill your houses for the sake of a few pounds on the deposit. It's just really not worth it. So try and impress on your tenants when they leave that, you know, they've had a good landlord essentially, and that you've done everything that you can for them, and you know, and that will reflect, and it goes out there. So you know, often think that's just you know, it's karma really. So look after your tenants, and it will show. So that's my take on it. So next video, I'll let you know in the comments what that will be. Undecided as yet, and happy to take suggestions. So thanks very much. Till the next time. Bye.